Hi, this is Jürgen Rasmussen. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis vlog. I want to make a video about how positive emotions can dupe us, how powerful, how positive emotions can make us worse off and sometimes lead to disaster. Now, granted, it's not the emotions themselves, but it's how we sometimes misunderstand them. In some spiritual communities and quite a few schools of self-help, there's there's this notion that if you can have positive or loving or compassionate feelings towards something, that's always to be preferred, or that will always lead to wise decisions or us being at our best. And that's not necessarily the case. So let me start off by sharing a case story of how I helped a guy with a severe gambling problem. So let's call him John. Not his real name, but John had made some really bad decisions in his past, which meant that he was in quite a bit of debt. It'll probably take him 20, 25, 30 years to get out of that, if ever. But when I saw him, he had a serious gambling problem. And that gambling problem, those behaviors emerged from a blissful, hyper-confident state. So what would happen was that his imagination would go off into this fantasy of making things right again financially. And he would picture how his wife, wanted to have sex with him again and respected him, and how he would now be a hero dad to his kids again. And these fantasies filled him up with bliss and confidence and amazing feelings. And then he would go play horses. And sometimes he would win, but over time, it just drove him more deeply into debt, right? Now, to him, when he was in these blissful, hyper-confident, amazing, positive emotion states, it really looked as if those emotions were telling him something about what he was thinking about, that it was time to go play on the horses, and that would be the way to turn things around, and that it told him about how the future would be. But it didn't. So what I had him do is I had him imagine these things in the office. Imagine saving the day and getting quite into it. And he had a good imagination, so he was like on a 10 scale of, bliss while doing that. I had him open his eyes and he was like, I feel amazing. And I said, good. What's your bank account? And he'd go, like, you kind of notice that there was no difference between his bank account now and 2 minutes ago when he wasn't in that blissful state, right? So I had him do it again. I had him deliberately make the fantasies again, this time knowing that he's thinking. This is what I call the serial killer process. I have a DVD online training course on this, by the way, shameless plug, that my good friend Howard Cooper at rapidchange.works sells. If you're curious about how I do this, really, in an artistic way. But I had him do it again while knowing that the whole thing was a thought. And knowing that the character called I in the dream, that he never shared his destiny. Meaning that no matter how successful the I character in the thought was, that he never shared his destiny. So he did the exact same thing again, and he went from a 10 to a 0. Like all the positive emotions evaporated. And we repeated that a few times, and I'm happy to report that his gambling issue is gone, verified by his wife. Because his wife was super skeptical and wanted to be kept in the loop, and she has verified to me over time. that the gambling issue is gone. Because those positive emotions of bliss and feeling amazing no longer occur when those fantasies occur. So what he kind of realized was that the feelings didn't tell him about what he was thinking about. It just told him about his own virtual reality goggles in the moment. And that's super important. There's this case, this real life murder case of a guy who was lonely and kind of depressed in his marriage, and he was a regular engineer, married, 2 kids. And he started going on this dating site. And he met this amazing woman, a tall, hot blonde, who he never actually saw. But he chatted with her, and he saw pictures of her and videos of her and stuff like that. And he fell in love instantly and felt, at the depth of his being that he had found his soulmate. And his work colleagues and friends were like, Jim, what's happened to you? You look amazing. Like his zest for life was back, and it really looked as if these amazing, loving feelings were telling him that he had found the love of his life and that life was great. And this particular woman was making him feel amazing, right? So him and this woman had this wonderful exchange of emails and phone calls and stuff like that. And they had planned on meeting. And then one of his work colleagues, who he talked about how he had found the love of his life, started going to the same site, and he ended up communicating with this particular woman. And they started having this little thing. And the original guy, let's call him Jim, experienced tremendous jealousy and tremendous insecurity and tremendous rage. And it really looked as if those feelings were telling him about how he was now losing the love of his life. And he ended up killing his coworker. And the police pretty quickly discovered that he was the killer, and they tracked down this woman after confiscating his computer and stuff like that. And when they got to the address, this rather old, very overweight, not attractive at all, woman answered the doorbell, and first she denied being the person who had the online affair, but then she confessed up to it, and it turns out that she had used the picture of her daughter to present herself. And when Jim was later shown the actual photos of this woman in jail, he kind of hit a new rock bottom when he realized, who he had actually killed for. But the interesting thing is that this was all generated by his own thinking process, and told him nothing at all about the people involved in the outside world. I highly recommend this movie to kind of, if you can view it from a perspective of seeing into the illusory nature of thought. It's called Tall, Hot Blonde. If you can get it, it's an amazing documentary of this true murder case. And it's a bit like I read about this other case of this sexual predator who was a priest who had been operating for many years. And when the kids first started, this was in the American Catholic Church, when the kids first started complaining about sexual abuse to their parents, no one at all listened, because they liked the priest so much. Like he was so charming. He was so charming, and he was so nice. So the parents had very positive feelings around the priest. And as a result, they thought that those feelings told them something about the priest, instead of realizing that This tells me about my own goggles, my own virtual reality goggles. It doesn't necessarily tell me anything about the priest. Lie detection research tells us this. This is how people like Bernie Madoff and others, get away with their swindles, is that how trustworthy someone comes across, how trustworthy and confident and relaxed and friendly someone comes across gives us virtually no information about how trustworthy they actually are. And if you can see in your own psychology, for example, so for example, if you're dating someone whose personality tendencies are very narcissistic, they might love bomb you and come across as the most charming, loving person, imaginable. Um, and we can sometimes have a tendency to now, and they may put you on a pedestal, right? And when they really put you on a pedestal, it's really easy to then really like them and to really love them and think the world of them. But it's not about you. It's about their need to feel special, because if they can, in their own mind, project you to be completely amazing, then if you want to be with them, that confirms just how amazing they are. Or you might do the same thing with someone else and project them to be completely amazing. And as long as you see that person as amazing, it validates you as amazing, that someone that amazing wants to be with you. But that doesn't tell you anything about that person's character, or what's really going to happen with that particular person. It's a bit like, again, if you look at the lie detection research, there's a really good book called Duped by Timothy Levine, if you want some overview of this. So, when they ask people, how do you know someone's lying? The most common question is lack of eye contact or people being fidgety. But that tells you nothing about whether someone lies or not. If you ask people how they actually discover that someone's lied, it's usually fact checking. You get the bank accounts and you see where the credit card was actually used. In spiritual and self-help communities, we can very often project or see a teacher as perfect or all-knowing or all-wise, because if we can do that, then we will feel safe and good as the students. But again, that particular emotional state does not tell you anything in particular about the teacher. So this idea that you should always feel compassion or love or strong positive feelings around someone, and that there's a sign of evolution or maturity to the extent that you do so, can result in you playing a lot of mental acrobatics that can get you seriously hurt. If you deal with people who are predatory and who seriously don't give a shit about your well-being, people who may have no conscience, no scruples, no ethics whatsoever. So I hope this was useful. I hope this can make you consider a little bit. It's the same thing in job interviews. The question we're supposed to be asking those who hire people is, what is this person a functional fit for the job? But the question we often end up answering is, how well does this person present? Someone might present well. We get positive feelings, and then we add on to that the person might be a good fit for the job. Or someone's charming, And we add, therefore, they're a good person with a good character who means well, but there's no necessary correlation between the two whatsoever. So enjoy your positive emotions, but realize that they tell you about your own virtual reality goggles, not the character or the intent of the person that you were thinking about or the future that you're imagining. So hope this was useful. If my way of thinking or working resonates with you and you're looking to make a change in your life or you're looking for mentoring, you can reach out to me at provocativehypnosis.com. If you have any comments or questions about this video, feel free to post them where you find the video. Till next time, thanks for listening.